Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Collectibles Catchup. I'm Tyler.
Tim.
I'm I'm Lauren.
And with us today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Mike Reyes of Cinema Blend. Welcome, Mike.
Oh, thank you for having me on, guys. How's everybody doing?
Doing pretty
Good,
good.
good. Welcome.
And we're excited to have you. So you are what is your official title with Blend again?
I am senior movie contributor over at Cinema Blend.
That is so cool. And I've seen the site before, and I've explored it here and there. And so I'm excited to have a verified movie. I guess would you say critic was critic fair or
That's part of the job.
part
Like
of
part
it?
of the
Yeah,
job is definitely being a movie critic, but then also there's having to know how to write a news story or having the knowledge to write a news story, and
yeah,
then interviewing people and knowing what to ask them about. In
right.
fact, when I'm done with you gentlemen tonight, I've got to go prep for something pretty special that we're going to be running soon. I don't know if I can talk about it yet, but I'll stay mum for now. But those are basically the three huge components: is writing news, doing interviews, and then news and features, because features are also a good part of the job,
Yeah,
and then writing reviews as a
yeah.
critic.
And before we jump into the interview, I know part of the reason we were able to do this is you and Tim have some history. So how do you guys know each other?
Well, you see, I was ready to duel him one day, and just as we were about to pull the trigger, we looked at each other and said, "Wait, don't you know Chris?" And that stopped us. But in all seriousness, we have a mutual friend by the name of Chris who sort of set us up online, and then we just became friends from there. We were both in his second wedding, and just a real good friendship.
If you're watching, Chris, hello.
Yes, Chris, you should be watching. We'll probably send him the link anyway.
Yeah.
There's two of
Hello,
us.
Chris.
We're all your friends now, Chris.
Yeah. Well, so Cinema Blend, it's about cinema. So I figure you have a love for movies. What originally got you into liking movies?
It is something that has been an interest of mine ever since I was a kid, and I think it's really easy for people in this industry or of this fandom to say that, but I mean, really, when you watch your first movie as a kid, that has some sort of an effect on you, whether you're a diehard movie fan or you just happen to like certain things. There's always those first experiences that really make you think, wow, I want to know more about this. For me, my first movie was Bambi as a kid. So I think that's kind of helped nail the Disney into me. And then as far as directors go, the first person I really ever really sort of latched onto was Steven Spielberg. Like that was the first person that I thought, oh, so what is a director? Clearly, they put all what are they put all this together. What is that? And then eventually it spirals out into getting movie guides and my parents' friends asking me for movie trivia knowledge or just movie recommendations as a kid. Like it was something that was really it meshed into my personality at the point, and it's just never really gone away, and I've never really wanted it to go away.
That
Wow.
is that is so cool. And Spielberg is such a, I mean, the career that he's had is just amazing when you look at like all the. I know you have directors out there that are really good, but I mean Spielberg just almost everything. I can't think of a movie that Spielberg's done that's like, that wasn't great. Like even his stuff that isn't like amazing is usually at least really good.
Oh, definitely. And I would think that most people of a certain generation, like anyone that probably grew up from Jaws on, I would say that is a fair bet that he's probably one of their gateway directors because of the spectacle that he's done and because of the huge movies that he's had. I mean, E.T. was the first movie that I really saw of his. And I remember my parents bringing it home on VHS, not knowing at that point that it was such a big deal because it was the first time that it was on VHS.
Mm.
Because it used to be that you could only see a movie at the movies and never bring it home. So I remember like the box and like the green little head on the tape. And after seeing that, that was it for me. And a couple of years later, a little movie called Jurassic Park would come along and also help shape my identity as a movie fan.
Yeah. So nothing like Indiana Jones did it for you?
Eventually it did. Eventually it did. And I don't remember. I think that might have been after we went to Disney the one year and I saw the stage show. It's like, wait, Indiana Jones. Dad's watched this. There's his tape. I'm going to go watch that. Like, that was basically what built my knowledge, was my father's insane VHS and this may blow your mind here, video disc collection. Because my dad had a video disc machine, which was basically, for the youngins out there, that was a movie vinyl.
Yeah, I remember.
And through those machines and through the movies that he would buy, I introduced myself to stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark or all of the James Bond movies. Once Tomorrow Never Dies hooked me in. The Muppet movie and Airplane were two movies I watched a lot as a kid, and those were right on the video disc. And I still remember Muppet movie introduced me to Mel Brooks because I kept rewinding to his scene because he's one of the best cameos in the whole damn movie.
Yes. So I mean, so you're working for a company called Cineblend. How do you how'd that come about?
Well, Cineblend, it's funny because I've been a full-timer since 2019 with them. But I've been writing for them since 2014. And the whole thing was, I'll try to make this absurdly long story short because I'm sure a publisher is just going to want me to write it for them. And I don't want to have to tell everybody the story twice, but it all started out as like light blogging, and I was getting writing experience that eventually snowballed into writing for a site called Cocktails and Movies for free. Well, it was free, but it was a homegrown site. So it was really more out of love. I was out of the love of my heart because I was in government contracting at the point that I started all that. And then, there was another site called What Culture that I wrote for at one point, which also helped nab some credits. But while I was doing this, I was at like a 9-to-5 job. And then eventually I was laid off. And part of what I did for the summer that I sort of had off between getting a new job and being let go from the other one was writing for Cocktails and Movies, going to movies and writing reviews and doing everything like keeping track of box office numbers, like a real good training for obviously getting into the next level. And then I'd gotten another office job in 2013, and I want to say by the beginning of 2014 I had received the call from Sean O'Connell, our managing director. I forget the exact title. Sean, please forgive me. But I got a phone call from him, and he basically, it was after doing a questionnaire and then sending writing samples, got a call to talk further about becoming a freelancer. And as of April Fool's Day 2014, I was a freelancer for Cineblend, after showing just how much of a Tarantino-esque storyteller I am. Years before that, I wrote for them briefly as a TV recapper because it was like a volunteer sort of thing, like, hey, want to write for the site? And it's like, sure. So I volunteered for all of season 2 of Boardwalk Empire. And I mentioned that to our TV editors after getting hired, and they're like, oh, that was you. And
nice. Full circle.
Yeah. So by the time 2019 came along, after several years of getting into the groove of things, they offered me a full-time position. And it was a real interesting juncture in life because I'd been, I think it was like 4 or 5 years at the office, the second office job that I got. And I told my wife about it, and she's like, look, you're going to regret if you don't do this. It's not that big of a pay cut, and you'll be saving by working remote and not driving an hour and a half each way. And some nights were brutal because I was driving from North Jersey all the way down to Philly for a screening.
Oh, wow.
And cutting that out of my life and being able to do it from home really helped. So I jumped on board, and I have not looked back ever since, especially because I'm actually doing better here than I was at my office job.
It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly what do you currently do for Cinema Blend right now?
So as I mentioned before, the basic prongs are, a normal day is writing up some news, and that'll be anything from sometimes we'll get pop culture stories like celebrity dating or something, and sometimes we'll all pitch in on that. But there's also whatever movie news is coming through. And a good example is this morning, a trailer dropped for, there was a movie trailer that dropped this morning. And I ended up, we do something called a shell, where it's basically within 15 minutes, write up as much of it as you can, post the trailer with the story, and then just like get it up on the site so that way it can start bringing in traffic. People can start reading about it from us as it's fresh. And then you just fill in the rest later. So that's sort of like one level is the news writing. Another level is features pitching, which is basically longer form pieces that aren't just, hey, this is the news. It's sometimes speculative, sometimes investigative. It's like, look, here's what's happening with, or here's what I'm thinking about the next Avatar movie, or you remember that scene from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever? I have thoughts about that. And that's like whole cloth. You're thinking that up, and obviously you're citing other links and mentioning other things that are on the site, but that's like straight from your brain. And then there's reviews and interviews where see a movie and review it, and sometimes get to talk to anybody involved, like cast, crew, writers, directors.
Wait,
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish.
no.
Didn't mean to cut you off. It's just you were talking about reviewing being part of your job, and I was just wondering if that has changed how you watch or review movies now.
I think what's really changed how I watch movies is the fact that I see more. I get to see more of them, and I get to see, sometimes I'll be assigned movies that I wouldn't normally seek out myself. Or sometimes something hits and it'll inspire people to go watch it and say, well, what can we write about this? Really good example of that was Terrifier 2, because that came out of nowhere, and just, a movie that was kickstarted on $250,000 at Kickstarter has now made $8 to $10 million. And those are numbers that I like to see. Say what you will about whatever movie that comes out. I did like Terrifier 2, but even if it was a movie that I didn't like, so long as it wasn't something that's like overtly harmful, it's like, wow, you made that much money off of this much of a budget. Meanwhile, you look at some of these other movies, good or bad, massive budgets, and they'll sink a little bit.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Smile, because Smile was originally going to be straight to Paramount Plus, and then they put it out there, and it ended up doing really, really well.
Exactly. I still need to see Smile, especially after hearing about that. But again, the ecosystem has developed to the point where streaming movies are kind of flip-flopping as to whether they're going to go to streaming or not, especially in the light of HBO, Warner Brothers Discovery's merger. And then you've got movies like the House Party remake or the new Evil Dead movie that were supposed to be streaming exclusives are now going to theaters. And you just look at some of the other movies that have streamed this year, and it's like, how much money could Disney have made on Hocus Pocus 2 if they threw it into theaters?
Yeah. Well, that actually goes into something I wanted to talk about, because I go to the movies at least like twice a month. I got this AMC stub thing that allows you to see up to 3 movies a week, and never see that many movies, but if you go to 2 movies, it's worth it.
Or even if you just pay for one person to go with you, you're basically paying the subscription fee.
Yeah, exactly. So I know, COVID, everything shut down for a little bit. And then afterwards, movies, slowly came back, going to the movie theaters. And I know you hear people say, oh, because of streaming, movie theaters are going to go away and all that. But I personally, we've talked about on here before, our favorite movie theater snacks. We talked about our favorite things. It's going to the movies. And I feel like you can't replicate a movie theater experience at home. Like I can't imagine seeing like I saw the Batman in March in IMAX. I can't imagine seeing that at home. Or like the community feeling of seeing Spider-Man No Way Home or Avengers Endgame and like those amazing scenes. Like you gotta some of that stuff you just gotta see with other people. So I just wanted to get your thoughts about
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess the future of movie theaters.
No, you're absolutely right. There are just certain movies that are community events, and even the movies that aren't community events, I still advocate for the movie theater experience, which I don't think it's going to die. I think what will happen is it's really just dependent on what sort of movies are going to go to theaters and what sort of experiences are theaters going to offer to people in order to bring them back and to keep them at theaters. I, as we've seen, and as you had parlayed through our streaming conversation, that's not studios are looking at certain things, and there's like content committees that basically decide what's streaming, what's theatrical, what's not happening. And I get that that's a business decision, but at the same time, I think every movie should have a chance to go theatrical. And it's almost kind of sad when you can almost automatically peg out that's streaming, that's theatrical, that's streaming. Some of the best memories I've had with movie going in the past decade or so happened at a movie theater that is currently closed near me. It was the Hamilton 24, where it was a big 24 screener. It had IMAX, it had Dolby, it had a 70 millimeter projector that I went and saw Hateful Eight in 70 millimeter during the road show. And they also had Dunkirk in 70 millimeter when it was running. And to have, I love massive theaters like that, to the point where I'll look at some theaters lobbies and it's like, this looks like a Home Depot. And it's like I remember the movie theater lobbies where like the old Lowe's theaters, where it was like the black and white sort of granite tile, but the concession stand looked cool. And Lowe's themselves had cool jingles and bumpers, and you had an arcade there. Like movie going was an experience. And when movie going is an experience, I think it makes those memories and it makes it easier for people to want to go.
Yeah.
But as theaters sometimes scale back from that, and the designs of the theaters aren't as cool, they really don't do arcades all that much. And even just with how people sometimes act during the movie, it's all just enough that those are all things that need to be paid attention to. Otherwise, people are going to want to wait for streaming. Because even if a movie is not going direct to streaming, you've got studios that are really savvy about sending things there not too long after the exclusivity window. So you've got people that want to go see a movie like Jurassic World Dominion. Some people may be motivated to just wait until it goes to Peacock and watch it there. That's fine and dandy. And, streaming has done a lot to help me watch as much as possible and to keep up with stuff easier in like the past couple of years because of those shorter windows. But I still really like being able to go to the right movie theater and knowing that people aren't gonna ruin the movie, and it just feels comfortable. I think that's part of why I wasn't a big fan of Barbarian when I went and saw it, because there was a row of people behind my wife and I doing everything from rustling around whatever they brought into the theater to like having their cell phone lights on at certain points.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Lauren and Tim, do you guys want to get it? Like, what do you guys think about theaters?
You know what? Now, talking about Mike's bringing up these points about the experience of movie theaters, and we're talking about he's talking about the colors, themes of red and white and everything.
Oh no, he froze.
No.
Yeah, he's stuck in theaterdom.
And I have a feeling he's talking about Lowe's theaters because of the red and white coloring. It's like that's exactly what was. It was so crisp on everything. Like I still remember the gift certificates where it was like the blue background and then the red and the white on it. And like it just looked wonderful.
Yeah, there's something about the theater that's way different than sitting at home. The luxury of sitting at home is you can press pause, go to the restroom, and not miss a thing. Whereas, you're in the theater, and if you got to go, you got to go, and you're going to miss a certain part, and it could give you, reason to go back and check it out again.
Well, yeah.
I don't know how long it's been since I've been to an actual movie theater for a movie. It's just, I don't know if it's the age or just the attraction. Just like, I'll wait till it comes out on streaming. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, see, that's the thing. Not only does the movie have to be an event, which is something that we can, that's a whole other level of focus testing and groupthink, but the theaters themselves have to be an event.
Yeah.
You have to want to go. And I will say, some of the things that I do like about AMC's approach, and like, again, I'll probably ramp this out to like the past decade or so, is the fact that they have premium food options and they have certain locations of theirs where they have bars and the ability to get high-end cocktails and such. The pricing is something that's not exactly I'm not exactly a fan of, but who is?
Yeah.
But
Right.
I mean, the good thing is, at least with the Stubbs card, you do earn those rewards. But
Yeah.
again, it's you want to be a one-stop shop for people, but you also want to welcome them in and just make it look and feel nice. There's another 24 screener out in I'm close to the Pennsylvania border in Jersey, and there's another 24 screener that has really cool, like, I think it may be some of the old Lowe's theming, because AMC bought out Lowe's. I think some of it is still there, so they have like, I think the different theaters have, or no, I may be confusing this with the Lincoln Square Theater, where it's like they have different names to the different auditoriums, and you go, and what I do know about Lincoln Square is you go up this big escalator, and there's just gorgeous paintings of like old school movie theaters, and sometimes they'll have display cases with costumes and props for a movie that's coming out soon.
Wow.
Like more of that.
That would
Yeah.
definitely be cool to see paintings of old theaters that, iconic theaters around the states. Hey, look who's back.
Yeah.
Talking about living in a world of, modern technology and, streaming and the convenience of it.
Now, see, if we were doing this in a movie theater, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Well,
Although AMC is now trying to do Zoom calls.
I saw that, yeah.
Theaters out for that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, Tim, the show's over. But
Oh yeah, we answered everything else. We teased next week's show. So
yeah, exactly.
That's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Well, with all the movies that are out there, obviously we deal in superhero movies mostly. So, in your decades of movie watching, what would you say are some of your favorite superhero movies that have come out? Doesn't matter what era, could be modern era or all the way back to Conan.
That was like a little before my time, but I did eventually see it.
What are you trying to say?
It depends on which Conan, right?
Oh, very true, because some people could be talking about the Jason Momoa one, but who really is? No offense to Jason Momoa. But as far as superhero movies go, oh man, that's a good one, because I don't remember seeing as many as a kid. Although I will say, I think probably the first big one in theaters for me was Batman Forever, because I was a huge Jim Carrey fan as a kid, and I knew of the first two Batman movies, but I didn't really watch them as a kid. My first Batman movie might have even been Mask of the Phantasm, which is still probably my favorite Batman movie of all.
Yeah.
But Batman Forever was like the first one where it was like, I asked my dad, like, can we go see this? And then one of my best friends and his dad were interested. So we all went to this old 5-screen theater, which is now an IHOP in Bricktown. And that was another theater that was really important to me, because not only did I see Batman Forever there, I saw Independence Day there with my dad. We went and saw Men in Black, and then snuck into Face Off afterwards. And oh yeah, that was a real fun night. And part of the reason why we did that was I was all about novelizations as a kid. And I read the novelizations for Men in Black and Face Off. And it was like, yeah, I want to see these movies. I like what I read here. I want to go see that. And so sure enough, my dad and I just kind of it was this theater where the central lobby area, I think, was like the first 2 or 3 screens. So it's like good luck going into any of those. That's where the big ones were. I think that was where Men in Black was in one of those. But then you walk down a quarter and there's like 2 or 3 screens that were sort of like a little more secluded. And I guess since you're weighing your options, Face Off or Men in Black, like which one are you going to put in the big auditorium, and which one are you going to put over here that's R-rated and maybe not as many people go? But anyway, Dad and I snuck into that afterwards and just had a blast. And one of the big room movies was Batman Forever, and we went and saw that there. So that sort of helped introduce me to the character even more. And obviously growing up around that time, you get to see like the renaissance of the rise and fall of comic movies, because Batman and Robin sort of tanked it a little bit. And you see X-Men, you see Spider-Man come through, and Daredevil, Ghost Rider, like all those early aughts movies that eventually would build up to the MCU. So by the time the MCU comes around, it's like, okay, I'm not that familiar with Iron Man, but I know what Marvel is, and I know that I have a taste for comic movies, so I'll give this a shot. And of course, that's the shot heard around the world when it comes to really making superhero movies into something that was a massive multi-million-dollar industry that has almost cornered the market at this point.
Yeah,
right. They were not. I heard that at the time when they had made Iron Man, they didn't even own the rights to Captain America.
I didn't hear that. That Captain America was one that I think that was one they did have in their hands, because they had mentioned in the beginning that it was like Captain America, Iron Man, and Hulk, and then Thor were like the big ones that Marvel Studios was going to start out with, because of the fact that because of the company being so financially strapped in like the early 90s, late 80s, all these rights, all these film rights were all over the place. Like I'm sure a teenage Kevin Feige was like, staring at this like map of properties and thinking, one day I'll avenge you, Stan. And I mean, the cool thing was you did have different approaches. I mean, obviously the original Incredible Hulk series, the Punisher with Dolph Lundgren, the cheesy Captain America movies in the 80s, and then you sort of go into the early aughts where X-Men lights the fuse, Spider-Man helps blow it up even more, and then it's like, okay, which of these characters can we do? And then Universal does the first Hulk movie, Sony gets Ghost Rider, like all these different studios had these beloved properties, and you did. Oh, you know what? I'm totally wrong, because there's a movie that I should be crediting before X-Men, and it's Blade.
Yeah.
Blade is definitely a comic book movie that I dug the hell out of. I recorded it off a pay-per-view when it first went on, and needless to say, I was in the theater when Blade 2 came out. I took a date to see that, and that was it. And that was the movie that helped introduce me to Guillermo del Toro. And I mean, just thinking about Guillermo del Toro directed a comic book movie before the MCU. Like, this is the start of stuff that's just insane to look back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's Daredevil. People forgot about Daredevil.
Yeah, there was Daredevil. I'm trying to think. Of course, the Fantastic Four over at Fox.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I thought the first one was cool.
You know what? Say what you want. I enjoyed the second one also. I felt cheated at the end, like cheated big time. But I mean, they must have just blown through that budget, and we're just like, all right, guys, that's a wrap. Like, wait a minute, Where's Galactus? Oh, he's the Cloud? No
Oh, that's
way.
why I was trying to remember what you said, what you felt cheated on. It's like I can't even remember. I couldn't tell you, and then you mentioned the cloud thing, and now I remember. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just wild that there is an era of comic book movies where I would love to see what kids of this era would think if you just, without telling them, show them a Fantastic Four, let them see the post credit scene, and then it's like, oh, cool. So where's the next one? It's like
That's it.
that wasn't a guarantee back then, kid.
Yeah.
It's like back then you got a post credit. Well, the post credit scenes really didn't kick in until like Pirates and Potter, because
Hmm.
I still remember Chamber of Secrets and Curse of the Black Pearl both had like scenes at the end. So that was,
Yeah,
people
little
have obviously
teasers.
done it before. Yeah, people have obviously done it before, like Ferris Bueller. Or so there was some things that were added at the end, but that was when, at least I remember, that was when the whole post credits craze was kicking up again. And it's like, oh, so we can tease another one, and maybe if enough people see this, and if we cast the right person in that tease, it'll happen.
Yeah.
That's like printing money, right?
Yeah, or we can plan just the character that just enough people know that and then there's got to be these videos that people are going to upload dissecting the post credit scene and like this is who you should know who this purple guy who's smiling is, and it's it's like become an
Yeah.
art form in of
Yeah, like it
itself.
was just going back to Iron Man, and it's like, whoa, Samuel L. Jackson's in this picture?
Yeah,
And what is this about? Oh, the Avenger. Oh, I may not be a huge comic man, but I know what the Avengers are.
yeah.
And wow.
So fast forwarding a little bit, I guess to 2022, I've seen a good amount of movies this year. Are there any movies so far? I know we got a few months. We got about a month left. I know Avatar 2 is coming out soon. But what movies came out this year that you
Finally.
enjoyed?
Ooh, what have I enjoyed? I've enjoyed quite a bit. I think I'm in. No, because I was allowed to tweet about it. I can talk about it. I saw Violent Night recently,
Hmm.
and that was a total blast and a half. Like I, you get your violent Santa movie, you get a good Christmas movie, and you get a funny comedy. So that's something I've sort of been riding high on lately. There's a couple other ones I really like this year. Belle was fantastic. This anime that came over earlier in the year. I thought it would have been a best animated picture contender, especially because it showed at certain festivals late last year. The Academy didn't pick up on it, and I was very mad because that was just really just a beautiful film. I see some of the disadvantages of seeing a lot of stuff is that you don't always remember the thing. You don't always
Yeah,
remember like, the stuff that even you just liked, or like even the stuff you really liked, because it's like, okay, I'm sort of focused on the day to day here, but every now and then something like Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris comes up, and that was something I really loved this year that is completely out of the box, and at its heart, it is a movie about a woman wanting a better life after her husband passes. And it's just told in this beautiful and visually lush way and absolutely funny and warm hearted that sometimes, that was something I may not have automatically sought out. But then when I got the assignment, it's like, sure, I will go see this. I will cover this. And I just fell for it.
yeah, that's awesome.
What about shows? We asked you about shows this year that have come out. I mean, movies this year that came out. What about shows? Any shows that you really got into and you're like completely invested in?
Yes, it's this wonderful show on Netflix called Resident Evil, and I'm just hoping for a second season to come around and keep fleshing. Oh wait, what's that? It got canceled? Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I'm still
Uh,
not happy about that because the Resident Evil series that Netflix put up was actually pretty cool, and I like how they were touching on the lore of the series and of the video games, but they weren't just going back to Raccoon City and doing this again and doing that again because I am still very upset with what happened with Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City.
mm,
So
There's been a lot of really cool shows that people would turn me on to. The Flight Attendant I thought was excellent. Yellowstone, of course, 1883. Gosh, there's been so many. Outer Range. What was another one with Sissy Spacek?
Oh, Night Sky.
Yes, that
There's
was
another one that
incredible.
got canceled.
Yes. Oh,
That's the
that
worst.
was a great show.
Meanwhile, I am very happy that they confirmed Sandman season 2 is happening because Sandman
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
season 1 was such a delight.
You know what? Talking about Chris earlier, I recommended that to him, and I'm halfway through the first season. I love it. Love it. It is like nothing I've ever seen before out of a show. It's so magical, and
I haven't
like
seen it.
the music that they have playing during like so many of these scenes, like it sets the tone.
I've
It's
heard nothing but good things. It's on my list.
Oh yeah, just Neil Gaiman is a wonderful modern fairy tale spinner to begin with. But this show and the way that they bring it to life, there are some chilling moments. There are some darkly funny moments. There's even moments where I'm openly weeping while watching this show.
Hmm.
And it captures all of those tones, but never loses sight of what it's doing and never cheapens itself by trying something new for the sake of trying something new. Like the series itself was obviously sort of anthological from what I remember. I didn't really get to read the series, but obviously knew of the iconography and everything. And
Mhm.
it's just that's another one where everyone was waiting and fearing that Netflix wasn't going to renew. And I just remember after watching the last bonus episode, which plays both sides of the heartwarming and chilling card in like with two short episodes. I just remember finishing it. And it's like I can't remember the last time that I really sank into a television show like that. And everybody was right about wanting me to watch this. Please bring this back.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me this year it's been Mandalorian and that old Star Wars Western feel to it. Love it. And you know what? I'm probably gonna get some hate for it, but She-Hulk, yeah, I said it.
Yeah, I
She-Hulk.
couldn't get past that first episode. And Mandalorian
Yeah.
kind of pissed me off at the second season finale.
Uh,
I thought the Werewolf by Night was pretty cool. It's a short film. I thought that was most excellent.
Yes.
That was, oof. The special guest in that, if I don't know if you two guys have seen
I
it
haven't
yet,
seen it
but,
just yet.
Smoking Fish, wow, so good.
Werewolf by Night is something I also highly recommend because I've loved Michael Giacchino as a composer, but he obviously has wanted to be a director for some time, and he made a short a couple years ago called Monster Challenge, which is on YouTube right now and is absolutely hysterical. Watching that energy cross over into this MCU short, I'm going to admit something. I'm kind of MCU fatigued at this point. Like I feel like ever since after Endgame, things have kind of been very aimless and very
I can get that. Yeah.
to me. And that's why, WandaVision started out wonderfully, and I feel like it tripped over its own feet and landed on its face. I did love Loki though.
yeah, I was gonna say we had Loki.
But then it got to a certain point where it's like, I know I might be interested in Hawkeye or Ms. Marvel looks like fun, but it's like, okay, this is court appointed viewing, and I just don't know if I want to show up for the appointment.
Yeah. There's
But
so
then,
much. Yeah.
but then Werewolf by Night comes in, and it's like, okay, so we want to do monsters in the MCU, and we want to do monster movies like this. Fine, just make it a Halloween tradition.
Yeah, I was really bummed out at the end. Not anything to do with the end, but the fact that that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's only a short film. It's not a series. Oh, you're killing me.
I know. I love that it's a short, but at the same time, if you really wanted to, you could expand that into so much more.
Oh yeah,
And
easy.
I value that feeling more than giving me a series, and it's like, cool, I don't want to watch the other 7 episodes because your first episode didn't really hook me in. And I've seen how much this stuff links into the movies or doesn't, and how much that if you really want to, you can, lightly reference things, but you don't really need to have seen it. Like Doctor Strange, you didn't really need to see WandaVision. It has references to it, and you can get better enrichment from it if you like really, really want to dig into it. But I could have skipped WandaVision and still been fine with Strange, and that's something that kind of bugged me because they were, this whole Disney Plus thing was touted as being vital, essential, and it's like, no, these are like one shot issues or other books that, you can ignore other books or filler arcs and just go in and read the parts you want, and it's like, oh yeah, I know about that, someone told me about that.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, are there any movies that or shows that you're really looking forward to?
2023.
I know that you are a big Avatar fan, and Tyler brought up Avatar. I know you're a big Avatar fan, but just looking at, I guess we can say that too.
He looks like he's begging to differ.
I'm okay with Avatar. I think
I thought I remember you really liking Avatar.
I really liked the 3D, and I really liked I really liked going to see that movie in IMAX 3D, because that's another movie that it was built for IMAX, it was built for 3D, and thanks to James Cameron, both of those formats kind of got a shot in the arm that turned them into the juggernauts they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a visually lush film. I do like that James Cameron's still plugging away at it, and I hope he gets to make all 5. I don't know if I'll like all 5, but I'll see them because it's his work. I'm at least going to see a James Cameron movie like that, even if I don't like the story. It's a knockout. It's visually stunning. I went back to see they remastered the whole thing in 4K HDR, and I went and saw it again, and it's gorgeous again. And then they showed a clip from Way of Water, and I'm watching, one of Jake Sully's kids swimming with this massive creature in like 4K high frame rate 3D, and it's like, this is stunning. I really can't wait to go see this because I still like the surprise of where is the story going to go. That we have no clue. Like it's kind of a pet peeve, but kind of something I like, because it's like they've done 2 trailers and they really haven't given us much about the story. And it's like, yes, this looks gorgeous, I'm going to be there. Even if I wasn't that interested, this is kind of one of those things that I have to go for the sake of my job. But what is this new story that we're doing here? That's, especially after all the criticism the first one got, it's like, well, you're gonna need to give a little bit of that to your audience to kind of bring them back.
Yeah.
And plus, it's just going to be interesting to see if it matches the first film in terms of crowd reaction, box office, like all this other things. It's like, it's really going to be neat to see, can James Cameron pull it off again over a decade after the first film?
Yeah, we shall see.
Well, out there in the world, you're working at Cinema Blend. How would somebody go about following your work and your writing and just being able to keep up with you?
Well, if you're a frequent visitor to Cinema Blend, we do have author pages, and you can, even if you just read a piece of my work, you'll see my name on there. You can just click on my name. It'll bring you to all the stuff that I wrote. There's also following Cinema Blend's official profiles through social media at Cinema Blend. And then there's also going through my social media profiles at Mr. Controversy 83. I'm big on Twitter and Instagram. Still, like, I'm not as much on Facebook as I used to, and I'm still trying to figure out the TikTok thing. Especially because part of the Violent Night junket, they wanted us to do something cool where if you go on a TikTok, there is a filter that it says whether you're on the naughty or nice list. And depending on which list you're on, it does a cosmetic overlay on your face. Like if you're on the nice list, you got like a candy cane sticking out of your mouth and you're like, like a fancy cigarette. Or if you're naughty, you're like bruised with a band-aid and like a tag on you that says from Santa. So, I mean, those are the places you can find me, just doing what I do best.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, this has been really fun, and I'm sure we can honestly sit here for a while and talk about so many superhero movies. And I mean, I would have loved if maybe next time, if you ever want to come back, we could get into the whole debate about, you know, is the MCU, are these movies cinema or are they not? We could talk about the Martin Scorsese debate and all that. There's so much we could have talked about. So we'd love to have you
James
on.
Gunn.
Yeah, we
James
talked about
Gunn.
what's going on with DC. So
Kick over all the hornets' nests.
Yeah.
we would love to
Well,
have you come back sometime if you ever want to and talk about all things cinema.
I will gladly come back. Although I will give you a shorthand answer to sort of prime the pump there. These movies should be taken in individual cases and not just the MCU on the whole. I mean, technically, by the definition of cinema, it is cinema. It's showing in a major movie house.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about artistic aesthetics, some movies are more cinema than others.
My friend likes to compare it to, McDonald's versus getting steak and versus, it's all food, but some is just more bougie than others, so
Oh yeah.
more artistic. And
oh yeah, but obviously would love to come back, and this has been fun, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
for
been
coming.
great.
yeah. Well, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Keep chasing those collectibles.
He
Thanks,
said
Mike.
it. He said the thing.
He did.
He said the title.
All right, bye.
Yay, comics!